I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the Israeli government struggles to prevent early elections. Two countries prep to move their embassies to Jerusalem. And get ready because the Israeli celeb Gal Gadot is welcoming a new co-star to Wonder Woman. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Last-minute talks with Netanyahu and ultra-Orthodox parties have reached a temporary compromise, though the Prime Minister has struck a deal to appease the Orthodox faction of his coalition by exempting Haredim from the IDF. It remains to be seen if the rest of the government will agree or if this is all merely delaying the inevitability of early elections. Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman's party has already rejected this deal, namely because it doesn't come from his own ministry. Losing Lieberman's party could very well be enough to topple Netanyahu's government and trigger early elections. Other Knesset members have already begun to publicly state that the Prime Minister, currently beset by a myriad of corruption scandals, will be seeking snap elections in June regardless, considering his party's strength in the polls.
אנחנו עשויים למצוא את עצמנו במערכת בחירות בקרוב מאוד ובבחירות עצמן בתחילת הקיץ.
Israel's Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit is also reportedly set to reject the compromise deal, which would only worsen the stalemate. The attitude from both politicians as well as general public is that new elections are very possibly just around the corner. Joining us now with a closer look at the political turmoil in Jerusalem is Naftali Ben-Simon from the Likud party. All right, Naftali, do you think it will be possible to reach a compromise between Lieberman and the Haredi parties?
Well, Natasha, from what I see from now, I'm in the Knesset. I can tell you that still there are serious talk about a new election. The compromise are not working very well. Even Avigdor Lieberman said that he will stay in the government, but will vote against the compromise. But something is going wrong with the ultra-Orthodox and Lieberman, and Bennett is in the game, and other Likud ministers. So the atmosphere is not so calm. It's not so going for a compromise. Netanyahu is now in the Knesset. He's answering for questions, but I can tell you that still 50% chance for new election in June.
Well, let's talk about the compromise a little bit. What needs to happen? What kind of compromise do you think will work?
Well, the ultra-Orthodox Agudat Israel decided last night that she will accept the compromise, that at least we will see a kind of a start in this process, and then we can continue in 1 year or 2 years or even in the next government. This is something that Avigdor Lieberman does not accept. This is something that he thinks that this is his why he's in the government. This is his aim, and he will not accept any compromise unless there is at least a army decision, IDF decision, and conclusion about the army duty of the Haredim in the IDF. So for now, it seems to me that it's a long way until we will see something good coming out, but everything can happen.
Let's talk about the chance of early elections per se. Let's say Netanyahu is not to win, and of course the polls are saying that the Likud party is stronger than ever right now. But if he weren't to win, who would be the viable replacement within the Likud party?
Look, in this political game, there are many questions and very few answers, and a lot of surprises. So something we can assume that the Likud party is getting stronger and stronger, and I'm happy for that. But in the other parties, we don't know exactly what will be their slogans, what will be their path to the election, and maybe we will see the same government in a few months from now. But this is the name of the game. I think Netanyahu make it very clear he will not, he would not like to act as a prime minister with a government of 61 votes. This is too risky for him. Mm-hmm. This is something that he will not accept, and he thinks that it's a very good government that should at least end in 2019. But for now, I can tell you, Natasha, it's very, very flexible and very risky to analyze, or maybe to I don't know, to think that what will be the end of the day, not the end of this week.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. We've just learned that 2 more countries are reportedly ready to follow U.S. President Donald Trump's example and move their embassies from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Sources have named Paraguay and Honduras as next in line for the move, though neither country has officially confirmed these reports. Honduras was one of only 8 countries, which included Israel, to oppose last month's vote at the UN condemning Trump's controversial decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Paraguay abstained from that vote, but has voted alongside Israeli interests in the past. Senior Israeli diplomats say the deal could be sealed if Prime Minister Netanyahu made official visits to those countries. So far, no trips are on the calendar, but given just how big the stakes are, he may be about to change his travel plans. Following recent Palestinian criticisms of the Arab world, PA President Mahmoud Abbas has now reportedly ordered his administration to keep silent or face the consequences. ILTV's Aaron Porras has the story. Now, Aaron, what are the Palestinians criticizing?
Well, Abbas's move to silence these criticisms comes after reports that Saudi Arabia and Egypt were pressuring Abbas to accept a potential Trump-led peace plan in the Middle East. So other officials then took it upon themselves to basically criticize Saudi Arabia and Egypt and anyone else in the Arab world who is levying these pressures, saying that they're just trying to collude with the Trump administration and take advantage of the Palestinians.
Why go so far as to ban criticisms, though? I mean, can the Palestinian president even do something like that, truly?
Well, I mean, he's threatening anyone who breaks his so-called gag order with, being held accountable for causing harm to the Palestinian and Arab national security. So it sounds like a fairly serious charge, and so basically it does sound like he can do it. As for why, it's very likely, in a sense, a way to hedge his bets, for Abbas to hedge his bets and play it safe and not upset his Arab donors. Because, while the Trump administration has already pulled funding for the Palestinian Authority, if Abbas loses support of the Arab world, the Palestinian Authority is dead in the water. So he can't upset his Arab backers. But then at the same time, he doesn't want to make any judgments or snap decisions that might have him labeled a traitor in the Palestinian Authority. So he's kind of biding his time, telling everybody to shut up, and then that way he can make a decision, deal with things privately, politically.
All right, thanks for joining us, Aaron. All right, Israeli authors like Amos Oz and David Grossman are considered some of the top literary minds of the modern era. And while they were born in Jerusalem, it comes as no surprise that Tel Aviv has just been named one of the top 10 literary cities in the world. The Israeli metropolis ranks in alongside cosmopolitan trendsetters like Paris, Seoul, and LA. The British online newspaper The Independent raves that Tel Aviv is home to some of the world's greatest poets, like Rachel Bluestein and Chaim Bialik, as well as hugely influential novelists despite Israel's relatively young age. The list even gives a special shout-out to one of the city's most beloved writers, Etgar Keret, specifically calling out his collection of short stories titled The Nimrod Flipout. With its rich history of preserving writers' homes and even naming streets after them, it's not too much of a shock to see Tel Aviv crack the top 10. The Independent also points out something well known to most Israelis already, that the best spot to read in the city is none other than Tel Aviv's gorgeous beach. In addition to 22 public libraries, Tel Aviv also boasts citywide lending libraries, where anyone can just grab a book and read on the spot. That makes the White City a hotspot for bookworms from all over the world, because remember, nothing's sexier than reading a book. All right, it's not easy to be a teenager dealing with all those hormones, and of course, just parents in of themselves can be overwhelming. Well, one Israeli company is now using some of the most advanced technology available to teach teens how to appropriately cope with mental stress and anxiety. Joining us now is Iftach Weiser, the managing partner of Open Mind 360 Degrees. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so I see you have a device in front of you. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do. You're using virtual reality.
Yeah, we are using it. It's part of our project. Open Mind 360 is aimed to help teenagers to cope with mental distress by technology of interactive virtual reality.
Okay, so give us an example. I'm already imagining certain scenarios that you play to tell us about this.
Yeah, so the good thing about virtual reality is this is an empathy booster, and this is something that you immerse into it. So we put situations from the life of the youngsters that they can identify themselves, and then they look into this, they realize who is in trouble, how it looks like, what are the symptoms of somebody going into mental distress, and we offer during the film options how to take action and how to help.
So but this is interactive, I'm assuming, right? So can the teenager that's using this program make decisions throughout the process? Okay.
Yeah. This is the beauty of it, because in the plot, we stop the plot in conflict points, and they can select how the plot will continue, how will be the ending, and
yell back at mom or
exactly
be nice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I can already imagine this being very useful for a lot of young people who just don't know how to deal with all of that stress. What inspired you to address this issue?
So this project was initiated by a colleague of mine, Tom, who, as part of her graduation of HIT in Holon, she came to the idea, we are three partners, she's one of them, that have a family member who suffers from mental issues, mental distress. And we observed how the society refers to them, and there is a stigma. So she decided, and we followed, to fight the stigma that exists towards youngsters who suffer from mental distress.
Well, and I also think this is something that could apply to the lives of every teenager. You don't necessarily have to be diagnosed with
Absolutely.
with a certain illness to find this useful. This is very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about this. And teenagers, keep your eyes on this new program.
Thank you so much.
All right. The world's leading economic group, the OECD, has just given Israel its annual economic report card. And while the Jewish state earned high marks when it comes to overall growth, things could take a turn for the worse if the housing bubble bursts. ILTV's Brett Allen Smith is here to help us analyze the OECD's report. Now, Brett, let's start off with the good news. Is there good news?
Sure, Natasha. Well, the good news here is that Israel's economic growth remains strong, stronger than ever, I would say, and that's buoyed by a 3.3% growth since 2012, as well as historically low unemployment numbers. So that's certainly worth bragging about, I'd say.
And I'm almost afraid to ask, what is the bad news that we're facing then? I heard the word housing here, right?
Sure. Well, the bad news is that Israel's housing market is still in a very precarious state right now. Housing prices are really, really high almost everywhere in the country. I mean, that's been the subject of some of Israel's biggest protests in the last few years. People saying it's almost impossible for the average citizen to buy a home in their lifetime here.
Well, that sort of goes hand in hand with the cost of living, just generally in Israel, which, as we know, is incredibly high compared to some of the world's most expensive countries.
Oh, totally. And look, it's a slippery slope. The OECD has pointed out that if housing prices come down too fast and that market pops, it might topple all the dominoes and give us a recession here. But on top of that, the report does point out that government spending in key infrastructure is still pretty shameful. And that's education we're talking about, student test scores, overall cost of living, like you said.
Yeah, well, it's funny because one of the biggest criticisms I hear about living in Israel, is it's such a cutting-edge country when it comes to tech and the military. But then when it comes to the basic stuff like wages or rent, I know a lot of people who have actually had to leave this country because they just said they can't afford it. It's too expensive.
That's a common complaint I hear all the time, too. And on one hand, it's remarkable that with the global economy in the state it's in now, that Israel can continue to stay in the green, but that has to filter back to the people who live here somehow, I'd say.
Without a doubt. All right, well, thanks for joining us, Brett.
Sure.
Now, here's a touching story. 3 years ago, 20-year-old Danielle Sonnenfeld, who is originally from Brazil, was tragically killed in a car accident while living in Israel. In honor of her memory, an Israeli nonprofit group called Heroes for Life has just sent 25 Israeli backpackers on a very special mission to volunteer in Danielle's home city of Rio. The group has just spent 2 weeks in some of Rio's most poverty-stricken slums. They renovated schools, volunteered in the streets, and even taught math and English to local children. Heroes for Life has been conducting this incredible volunteering experience for a few years now. Each year, they send a delegation of post-army Israelis to a foreign country that needs help in memory of a fallen Israeli soldier. But this year, the organization was proud to send the delegation in honor of Danielle, which is why the group was named Team Danielle. And get this, one of Danielle's friends was actually able to participate in the program as part of the delegation. The slums of Rio are known to be some of the most polluted and impoverished in the world, with infant mortality rates that are sky high. These helping hands couldn't have come at a more urgent time. All right, now there's an old theory that if you go back far enough, you could actually connect every single human being back to one common ancestor. Well, we may not have the technology or the patience to try that just yet, but one Israeli man has just gotten a lot closer than anyone ever before. Yaniv Ehrlich, better known as the Genome hacker, has just assembled a family tree connecting 13 million people. Yaniv currently serves as the chief scientific officer at MyHeritage, the Israeli-based genealogy platform that helps people track their family history. His research pretty much wrote the book on modern genealogy, DNA, history, and personal privacy. He earned his nickname as a genome hacker by using public DNA records to actually identify participants who'd given their DNA to research projects. But contrary to some popular belief, Yaniv actually thinks keeping your genome public could actually be a good thing. His current research compares family trees with surveys and genome records to trace certain diseases, and maybe even figure out how our genes create certain family illnesses. MyHeritage has collected over 1 million DNA profiles since it launched its first test back in November of 2016. At this rate, who knows how many genetic breakthroughs are on the way. In 2016, over 72% of all charitable donations came from private individuals. That's a whopping $282 billion. Well, now the Israeli startup TrueGive has found a way to make donating to causes much easier. And here to tell us all about it is founder and CTO Shimi Ullman. Thanks for joining us. All right, so tell us a little bit more about your organization, TrueGive.
Yeah, so really the vision is, we start with the vision. We want people to be able to donate an item versus money.
Okay.
So you as a giver could think of an item and decide you want to give this item to a specific segment of people. Yeah. And you buy it online at any store you want, and it goes directly to the person.
Interesting. So how are they connected? I mean, do you have a platform with a list of charities? How does this work?
Right. So currently, we're starting with the user having the ability to go online, shop at any store, select an organization.
Okay.
And then that item will go directly to the organization. Down the line, we want to give the ability to the organizations to give out either through an app or coupons, where the actual user could go to the store and pick it up.
Interesting.
Pick up that item directly.
Okay, so is the platform in use now, or is the technology in use now, or you're developing it?
We're developing. We're in a pilot stage. Within 3 months, we should have here in Israel a working program in a couple of stores. We're connecting with a company called SelfPoint.
Yeah. And how did you come up with this idea? I mean, it seems very basic, right? But it doesn't exist right now.
Right. So there's really a story behind it. I mean, I was at a falafel shop, and there was a soldier in front of me that didn't have money to pay for his falafel, and I told the guy, yeah, I'll pay for it. And then I thought, people maybe could, sit at home, buy a falafel or buy a burger and buy something for a soldier, and the soldier just comes and picks it up.
Right, so it goes beyond just, donating cans of food to a homeless shelter, but the kind of daily tasks that we go through in life, getting coffee in a coffee shop. Okay, this is interesting. All right, very cool. So what is next for your company?
So we're hoping to get our pilot program running within a couple of months. And of course, raising some money to get the ability to grow into more markets.
All right, very cool. Well, everybody keep your eye out for TrueGive, and if you're interested in investing, it's a very charitable cause, right?
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. All right, the Israeli superstar Gal Gadot has some exciting news for us. SNL veteran Kristen Wiig is set to co-star in the upcoming Wonder Woman movie, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has the details. Hi, Emmanuel.
Hi, Natasha. Well, like you said, absolutely hilarious. Kristen Wiig is set to play the Cheetah character in the Wonder Woman sequel. Cheetah is a character that comes from the DC Comics publications and is supposedly Wonder Woman's biggest arch enemy.
Well, I can't wait to see this character in action. It's a big deal because Cheetah has never been in big screens before, right?
This is her first cinematic debut. There's been 4 versions of her. They're going with the last version, which is kind of more of a nerdy version of her, so it kind of works for Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
So apparently some of her, you could say, superpowers are sensing death. Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Controls
something
animals.
The cats do. I'm like scared to walk on the streets of Tel
Exactly,
Aviv
right?
right now after
They can
hearing
just
this.
tell. She can shapeshift. She has heightened senses and super strength.
Okay. So I bet all the Israelis are worried right now that this woman is going to take out our Gal Gadot,
Take over
right?
Gal Gadot. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that's kind of where the movie is supposed to go. It's just supposed to be a lot of women on set, a lot of women in the production, which is actually really exciting. The movie is set to premiere, set to come out on November 1st in 2019. So we have a while.
Well, it's interesting that this was a choice. Kristen Wiig was a choice for this role because she's a comedian and we've never really seen her in a scary role. But I guess you could say comedians know how to take their pain and darkness and make it something funny. So hopefully that's going to come out well in a bad villain.
Exactly. I'm excited
role,
to see how she does. I'm sure she's going to put like a comedy twist on it, and it's going to be funny. People are definitely. It's going to be hard to take her a little seriously in the beginning because of the movies that we've seen her in previously. A lot of different things. But it is really interesting. I have to point out that Gadot was against signing on to the sequel until the producer, Brett Ratner, was taken down because of sexual assault accusations that came to be, fact. So now it's just women, just fun. Going to be a great production.
Yeah, and I also heard Kristen Wiig was like the first choice to be the villain in the series, even though they wanted Emma Stone originally. And,
but then
Jenkins, who's another female director, another female power woman in Wonder Woman, went for a Wiig. All right, well, thank you for joining us, Emmanuel, and telling us about this. I can't wait to see this movie.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
All right, guys. In just a few short months, Israeli superstar Netta Barzilai heads to Portugal to rep Israel in the 2018 Eurovision competition. Israeli media has just released a preview of the song Barzilai will sing. And I just want to say I feel bad for whoever has to compete against her. Check this out.
Wonder Woman, don't you ever forget. You're divine and he's about to regret. He's a
That voice is crazy, and get this, mere hours after the video went public, Barzilai's spot in the poll shot from 9th place all the way to #1, making her the new favorite to win. We here at ILTV have been fans of Barzilai from the very beginning, and if she wins, this will be Israel's first win at the Eurovision in 20 years, just in time for Israel's 70th birthday. The 25-year-old star started off singing clubs and weddings before wowing the judges in Israel's elimination contest to rep the country in this year's Eurovision. By singing in English, Barzilai is breaking the mold, as Israeli contests in the past have typically sung in their native Hebrew. But this girl is no one's toy. As far as we're concerned, she can do whatever she wants. The first semifinal round kicks off in Lisbon on May 8th, but it looks like Netta is already ready to go. All right, guys, now for our Hebrew word of the day. Eurovision 2018 is now just months away, so in support of Israel's representative at this year's competition, Netta Barzilai, our word today is mitmoded or mitmodedet, meaning contestant. Now, Barzilai is a mitmodedet or contestant in a musical contest, but mitmoded also means competitor. So, while we may not be entered in some sort of competition, we might still mitmoded or compete in other things. Board games, best dressed in the office, even silliest fake laugh. Just remember, to be a good mitmoded, play fair and try not to take it so seriously. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The skies will be partly cloudy tonight, but temperatures should rise to a low of 52 or 11 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect clear skies and a little to no change in temperatures. The high will sit around 70 or 21 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.45 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.